Tim rečima ističe se preimućstvo duhovne vode nad materijalnom, duhovne hrane nad materijalnom, jer čovek kao psihofizičko biće ima potrebe i za materijalnom hranom da održava svoje telo, ali posebno za duhovnom hranom svoje duhovne besmrtne duše. Žena Samarijanka došla je na izvor po...
My name is Walter Vukovich, and I was born in Chicago, Illinois on October 14, 1927. My parents were Tomo and Milica Vukovich, who came to the United States as immigrants from Austria-Hungary in the early 1900s.
Were you christened here?
I was baptized.
I
was baptized in the year in October 1927 as Vladimir, and at the Holy Resurrection Church, which incidentally at that time was the only Serbian Orthodox church in Chicago. When I started elementary school at the age of 5, I spoke only Serbian, and I came home the first day from school crying because everybody was laughing at me at the way I spoke. But this was not only true for myself, but for all my friends in the area where I lived that were Serbian. We all spoke Serbian very clearly at that time. So at that point, my mother said to my father, we got to start talking to him English so he doesn't run into the problem.
Tell me a little bit about what your parents did during this time. Did they work? Was your mother a homemaker?
My mother and father both worked. My father worked for the transit system at that time, which is the Chicago Surface Lines. He was on the track and he got ill and became an invalid, and for 13 years was bedridden. My mother worked in a factory where she was sewing, ironing board covers and other incidentals.
And were you and your parents, or was your family were they avid churchgoers?
Yes, we were as much as we could be at the time. When my father got sick, then he couldn't make it, but he insisted that I become active in the church. And at the age of 17, I joined officially as I filled out an application and became a member. At the same meeting, I was appointed to be the financial secretary of the church. And since then, I've been officer off and on for many years.
How would you describe your faith now?
I think my faith has gotten stronger as I've grown older and understood more. There were times when you're younger, you don't look at things the same way as you do when you're older. And that was one of the things, the faith just became more and more important in our lives. My wife and I met at an early age because her parents were also Serbian and belonged to the same church that was located at Schiller Street at the time. And we went to Sunday school together, church school, Serbian school together. And we began in the choir when we were younger together. And we eventually started dating, and we were real good friends for many years, and we started dating. And I took her to my high school prom, and shortly after, when I turned 23, I made the point to ask her if she would be my wife, and I explained to her the situation that my father was an invalid, and that it would require some of my help, and that she'd have to, which she did wholeheartedly. She was a school teacher for Chicago Public Schools for 25 years, and we worked together in accomplishing what we could, and we had 2 children together, which made our life much happier. On one occasion, I remember I was at the church on a Saturday attending a memorial service for someone that had passed away earlier. I came by myself, my daughter and wife, and they had gone looking at colleges in St. Louis. I says, don't bother, I'll go. When I got finished with the service, family invited me to go across the road to a restaurant and have dinner, lunch with them, and I explained to them, let me check at home. I always check, see how things are. I called my home, my grandson answered the phone. I says, John, yeah, just a minute. He gave it to my daughter. She says, we're just putting Mom into an ambulance. She couldn't breathe, and they're rushing her to the hospital. I explained to these people I had to leave, and I went to the hospital, and they had her in ICU on support, and she recognized me, but she was having a problem breathing, and it was something blocking the breathing cord, and when it would, like a pendulum, it would hit that spot, she couldn't breathe. But they looked at her, examined her, and we all felt it was her heart because she had had a bad heart for 25 years, had heart attacks and bypasses. So we figured it was her heart. So I asked to have her transferred to the hospital where our cardiologist was. And this was done reluctantly. They didn't want to release her, but my doctor talked to them and said, it's all right, they could do it. He explained the condition she was in. They got her there, and she was there for about 3-4 days, and it determined that it wasn't a heart, but that she had a growth on the breast, on the lung. It was cancer, they thought. So at that point, we transferred her to the hospital, Northwestern, where they had expertise people in that. And they worked with, that was from the day she was taken in the hospital the first time was August 16th. And we were at Northwestern, and I was sitting with her, holding her hand, and we can get into a little funny part of it. They asked if she smoked, and she says, no, you can cut this out if you want. And I couldn't look at her because she was a smoker. And did you ever smoke? Yes. How long did you smoke? She said, I guess I didn't quit soon enough. When did you quit? When I came into the hospital. And it was determined that the reason they did finally discover it was with either a CAT scan or MRI that went behind wherever it was that proved it and brought it out that that's what it was.
And when she passed, did you find yourself questioning your faith, as in, why is this happening to me? What did I do to deserve this? What did she do to deserve this? You know, did you feel that this is what happened? This is what happens to everyone in the end, no matter how they live their life.
I can honestly say that there isn't, I don't think, a person that doesn't think that at the time. Why did this happen? Because I was sick and in the hospital for 82 days, and they had originally said that I wasn't going to make it. They told my wife and children. And I guess it wasn't meant that I go, it was meant that she goes. And it was difficult in the beginning, but when I turned to the feelings of my faith in the church, I realized maybe it was for the best that she didn't live on and suffer, which I've seen many people doing for long periods of time. I think I've used the church on many occasions to sit and think of my problems, and I think the church and my faith helped me through them. I'd sit in the pew at a church, and there's time when the church didn't have a service, and I just lit a candle and I went, sat down. I usually light a candle for the soul of the deceased members of my family, and I light a candle for the health of my living members of my family. I've done that for many years, from growing up in the church and being taught that that's the way they do these. In the case of Serbians, most of us, we have kumovi, and that when we got married, my wife and I, we had kumovi, and the son of the kum that baptized me, they're stand up for you while you're being baptized and for weddings and that, and then when you have children, these kumovi are kumovi for them. And the object there is, it's always been said, if anything happened to the family, the kumovi would be the ones that would take it upon themselves to help rear those children or children, and so that they have it easier in their life. And the kumovi becomes, as I said, very close, even to the point sometime closer than your blood relatives, and they're considered pretty close. I always felt when I was single, the family was very important because we were close. My parents, I had a stepbrother that was killed in the Air Force in 1943, and I think that brought us even closer when something like that happened. But I think over the years, in my immediate family, being married to Sonia, my wife, and the children we had, and grandchildren. There's nothing like it. I mean, that's, to me, is the most important thing in life. You have your family and you have faith, you have everything. And there's times you can get mad at kids, as any place else, but you always remember that that's your blood and that they think the most of you. And they, in this case, have really made it much more, not acceptable, but when I say easier, to be alone without my wife. When I have them, I have somebody there. You know, I think I would, I think people that lose their spouses and they don't have anybody, children or grandchildren, it's very difficult to accept. But I think I view that as close as you can have it, and Kumavi and everything else. I feel that my wife's been with me ever since she's passed away in there, one way or another. I say my prayers every night, and while I'm saying them, I feel like she's looking over my shoulder to make sure I don't miss anybody. I pray for the souls of the deceased, and I pray for the health of the ones that are still living, my children and grandchildren, Kumavi and others. And I think she's right there. You know, I don't think she's ever left me when it comes to that point.